Hey everyone, my name's Alexandra and I am a watercolor artist. Welcome to part 2 of how to paint watercolor herbs. Paisley had left a comment on my last video on how to paint watercolor rosemary, asking to learn how to paint thyme. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to paint thyme. Let's get started. For supplies today, you guys will need 2 cups of water. I have one for clean, one for dirty water. I have a napkin for drying my paintbrushes. For paintbrushes today, I'm using Princeton rounds, numbers 6 and 2. I also have a black fine liner. I have the Micron 04. This isn't completely necessary, but if you guys want to write the name of the herb at the end, then a fine liner will work for that. For paper, I'm using 140-pound Strathmore cold press watercolor paper. And for paints today, I'm using Art Philosophy & Co.'s Woodlands palette. Essentially what you guys will need is green, some sort of red, brown, and yellow, and you guys will be all set to go. All right, so to start, you guys are gonna use your number 2 paintbrush. And I'm gonna go into my palette here. I sort of have a mixture already of my redwood paint. I'm gonna get it super, super watered down, and we're just gonna draw our guidelines for our herb. So for this one specifically, I'm wanting to make it a little bit more full. With thyme, you have the really little leaves on it, so we're gonna sort of do it more like a big branch bit. So starting from the center of my page, kind of about 1 inch away from the bottom, I'm gonna do a line that's relatively straight going up, has a little bit of a curve to it. And now working my way around, we're gonna just add some more branches coming up and out. All right, so we'll do a few more branches. We can start from part way up, some that we've already painted. And we're gonna be adding our green leaves over top of them. So you guys can just paint them nice and light, and then we'll add some details. All right, so now that we've done those, we can go in and start adding our leaves. So I'm gonna go into my green. I sort of have a mix of colors here, but I'm going with a little bit more of a muted green. If you guys find that your green is too bright, then feel free to just add a touch of a red to it, or even a little bit of yellow just to help tone it down. And now we're actually just gonna continue with our small brush, and we're adding very small little leaves into our painting. So I'm putting the tip of my brush down, and I'm just pulling back to make these really, really tiny leaves. So for the most part, as we paint our leaves, we're gonna have them pointing somewhat upwards. So I'm just gonna go in and add all my little leaves around each branch that I have. I can also scatter some so they kind of look like they're right in front of the branch. This is just gonna give it a much more natural look than if you just continue with them on the left and the right hand sides. So now I'm gonna move over to this branch here that is right beside. And these ones, just because they're closer, they might overlap a little bit, but that's okay. So we're just adding multiple skinny little leaves. I like to make sure when I'm painting my leaves that they're kind of all at a little bit different angles from each other. And this just helps me get a really nice, more natural looking branch. I think sometimes if you make them too uniform, then it doesn't look as true to what you actually see. So now, just like we did with this branch, we're gonna follow the exact same concept for the rest of our 5 branches that we have here. You guys will also notice that I have some of my leaves that are overlapping each other a little bit. And again, I also don't mind that at all. Just gonna keep it with this really nice, loose, natural, and very effortless look. These types of paintings are something that are so simple for you guys to do. And I find that they're such a nice addition if you want to either add them to your kitchen or your pantry. Just to have a really simple thing that you guys can easily do yourselves that sort of just add a really nice touch to your home. So we're just continuing to add these sort of kind of elongated teardrop shapes. I find that when I'm doing paintings like this, it's often really relaxing to just be painting all of the tiny little leaves. And depending on how big you want your branches to be, you can obviously do more or less leaves that way. So you guys can see as I'm painting that the reason that I painted that base layer of my branch lines really light is so that we can paint over top with our leaves and it's not showing through really aggressively. And as we continue on, once the leaves are done, then we'll add details to that branch to make it stand out, but it's not going to be this really harsh line that's overlapping our leaves. It'll be a lot more subtle and a lot more natural. We're gonna take a brief pause in this tutorial because I have something to tell you guys. I am so excited to introduce my new course, From Palette to Paper, A Beginner's Guide to Watercolor. In this course, we do a deep dive into all of the foundational watercolor techniques. Then we go into depth painting florals, and after that, we combine it all into one beautiful floral masterpiece. I have a link in the description below for more information, so go check it out. So if you guys want to, you can add some clusters of leaves that are together. All right, and now we are on to our last branch before we go in and add some details. So now I'm making my way down my branch here, and I'm gonna add some more leaves towards the bottom here, but I'm not gonna take them all the way down. So I'm just mixing a little bit more green for that. And we'll add a few more coming down here. Okay, so now that we've added all of those, it already looks so full, so cute. You guys can definitely leave it as is here, but I would like us to add some more detail to the branches that are in behind. So I'm gonna go in and mix a little bit of my cavern brown with just a touch of the foxberry. So if you guys mix brown with just a touch of red, then you guys will get sort of the same idea for color here. And what we're gonna do, sticking with our small brush, is I'm just gonna put, actually I'm gonna add a little bit more brown to that. It's looking a bit too red. I am gonna put some brush strokes just over top of some of the branch that's in behind. I'm keeping it light and I'm not fully covering where I've painted. We're just gonna make it stand out so much more by adding this really subtle detail. You guys will know if you followed along with any of my other tutorials that I often do this with my flowers and branches, where I'll go in after and just add that extra bit of shading and definition. So I'm just doing tiny little strokes. I'm not painting on top of any of my leaves. I'm keeping this behind all of them. And specifically the contrast by adding that bit of a red into my brown color makes the leaves also just stand out so much more just because they are contrasting colors. Okay, so now that that's done, we can add a little bit more detail to our leaves. So now that we've done that, to go back into our leaves, we're actually gonna go in with kind of a similar color of green. And we're gonna use a little bit of a glazing technique just to add a second layer to some of these to give them a little bit more variation between the leaves and a little bit more interest as well. So with my paintbrush, I can just pick whatever leaf I wanna go over, and I can either fully overlap it or I can even just cover part of the leaf with my color. So for this one specifically, if I go over each side of it, oh, sorry, I kind of went over the whole thing there. I'll show you guys with a different leaf. If you go over the sides of it, you can leave a bit of a white space in the center to act as the vein of the leaf. So I'm very intentionally not doing this to every single leaf and only to some of them, just because I don't mind if some are a little bit more faded, and this is just gonna really give some nice depth and variation to our painting without making everything too dark. So just continuing to work my way down each branch, painting about every kind of third leaf or so. Now this is such a subtle addition to your painting, but you're gonna notice that it's just gonna make everything stand out so much more, and it's gonna take it from looking more like a beginner's painting to something that's a little bit more intermediate to advanced. So again, just covering some of the leaves, I can cover them fully. Some of them I might just cover part of them. The ones that I have overlapping with each other, I'm gonna take the one in front and paint over that just so that we have some more clarity there on what is going on. And the more contrast that I have in my paint colors here, the more the leaves will stand out. So if I find that some of them still feel a little bit too light, then I can even go over them a second time with either the same green or a bit of a darker green, just to get more contrast in there. Okay, now that we've done that, you guys can see that there's so much more depth in here. It stands out so much more. So to continue with what I had done with my rosemary painting that I did, I'm just gonna write on this one, Thyme, just to complete it. I find especially if you're doing a collection of different herbs, it looks really nice for them to have the names written down. But again, this is something that's completely optional. You guys definitely don't have to do. If you guys want to draw a line just as a guide for where to put your word, then feel free to do it with your pencil, just super, super light, and then you can go back in and erase it after. I like to do that just to help me get my word written out straight. So we're gonna go right to the left here. All right, so we are all done with painting our watercolor Thyme. I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did follow along, make sure to take a picture and send it to me at Alexandra Victoria Studio on Instagram. Also, if there are any other herbs that you guys want to learn, leave a comment below and let me know, and I will add it into future parts of the series. Lastly, if you guys haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. That really helps me as I'm continuing to make tutorials for you guys. We'll see you next time.